Broncos Country, we need to talk. We need to have a heart to heart, and we're going to do that because there's a lot of panic. There's a lot of crazy things that I've been seeing on social media, on talking with people. So much unnecessary overreaction, and I understand why. So I want to address that. All right. So let's talk about it. Let's have a heart to heart. Let's have a therapy session today. If you guys are all good with that, guys. If it's your first time on the channel, welcome. I appreciate it. Check some of the other videos out. Smash that subscribe and hit that like button for me. It really, really help me out. It help the channel as I'm trying to grow this thing out. And I really hope that you guys like a lot of the content that I'm putting out. So, guys, I get it. The week two loss to the Steelers was ugly. This Broncos team looks terrible in a lot of different ways. But it's extremely important that we all understand something that is vital to judging this season and being patient. Now, I get it, guys. Trust me. I've been a Bronco fan for 33 years, right? Since the day that I was born, it's been in my blood. I'm a native. That's something that's never going to change. These last 8 years have been terrible, right? And not just for the obvious reasons of, not making the playoff and the longest playoff drought and not even having a winning season and God knows how long. A- Aside from all of that, it's been terrible because the mismanagement of the team and the constant band-aiding of the situation of the team instead of just embracing, as I take this thing off, instead of embracing a rebuild, right? And that those 8 years of doing things the incorrect way, that is exactly what has led us down to the path that we're on now, right? So that being said, this season has to be judged and looked at completely independent of the other previous 8 seasons. Now I get it. We are an impatient fan base and we've just had it, right? We just want to be able to turn it around. But it took us 8 years to get to this point. We're not going to turn it around in 2 games. It's probably not even going to take a season fully. But this season has to be judged independently completely, right? I think about it like this: if this exact rebuild, we drafted a rookie quarterback, we kind of committed to uh, a head coach and shaping this team in his image. If that happened 2, maybe 3 years after Super Bowl 50, the patience would be a lot different with Broncos country. We would understand. We would say it's going to take some time. We would be a little bit more understanding of that. Just because it's been 8 years, we cannot lose sight of that, guys. It's extremely important. Extremely, extremely important. You also have to understand to keep things in perspective. We ate $88 million in cap space to be able to get rid of Russ, to be able to kind of get ahead of this and get a head start on what's been something that's been needing to be done a long, long time ago. All right. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that we can make excuses for this team either, right? At all. But it's super important that we look at everything through that critical eye. The wins and the losses of the season are not nearly as important as the development of A, number one, your quarterback Bo Nix, and B, the other young players that you have on this team. Because unless you find out what you have with your quarterback and with those other guys, it makes the rest of the vision and the rest of the plan in terms of where you need to fill gaps and where you need to severely improve. It makes it a lot more difficult, right? So what's been frustrating to me about these first 2 games is that we haven't we've looked terrible, but we haven't really looked terrible with aside from Bo Nix, we haven't looked terrible with guys that we don't really know a lot about to give them the opportunity to be able to shine and to be able to develop. Now, another thing that's really critical with this team right now is football is a very simple but complex game at the same time. And I think that's what my fascination with football always has been, is that it's a very simple game that has a lot of nuances and a lot of complexities to it. Um, right now, this team is incapable of even doing the simple things right. Right, you know, protecting the football, protecting the passer, running the ball at a decent clip, managing the clock. Those kind of simple things. We're not even there yet, right? Once we get to that particular point, we need to focus on just getting there. Once you get there, then you can start adding the nuances and the complexities. And the frustrating thing about that is that because we haven't been good at the simple stuff, it hasn't even allowed for us to not only judge the quarterback that we have, a rookie quarterback that we have in Bo Nix, but be able to even allow for him to develop. I feel like he's thrown 77 passes in 2 games, which is crazy. But they haven't, and it's not like they've put out any kind of good film or anything like that out. So it's super important that we return back to making things very simple. Yesterday, I was watching Sean Payton's presser, and it was extremely telling. He had said something that was really telling. He said, "We're always getting in and out of different personnel groupings, but I don't think that it's helping us." Now, no shit, dude. No shit, right? Without a doubt, so far up to this point, the person who deserves the most blame is the head coach, Sean Payton, 1,000%, because he's done the team no favors. But the fact that he said, "Yeah, I don't think he's doing us any favors," is, I mean, that's obvious. Trying to get guys into different personnel groupings and doing all this crazy stuff is asinine. Right now, this team just needs to figure out how they can look halfway competent. You can worry about the personnel groupings and all that shit later. Right? That's first and foremost. Now, number two, he needs to be able to simplify that. He needs to call the plays just as if he is saying, we're going out with our base package, we're going out with these players, and we are going to call the plays around it accordingly to be able to establish some sort of an identity. If the identity of the team is spread them out, go empty, and throw the ball, and force their linebackers and their safeties to cover, that's fine. Now, I don't think that's how you should do it, but that's fine. If it's three tight ends, a fullback, and you line it up and you run the damn ball out of I formation 35, 40 times a game, then that's fine too. But you have to commit to something. You cannot keep experimenting with what you have right now. You had the entire offseason to do that. Right now, you've got 2 games of film, and the 2 games of film tells you that you suck. Whatever it is that you're doing, you suck at it. All right. So either get new guys to come in here and get the ball in their hands, or simplify shit to make it easier because you're doing nobody any favors right now, and it's obviously extremely frustrating for Bronco fans in general. Now, when you look at it in that sense, I got I've been hammering these points all off season, and a lot of people have given me a crazy amount of shit for it. And hey, maybe one day I'll eat my crow, but right now, I've been telling you guys, there's no point of having guys like Javonte Williams, guys like Cortland Sutton on this team, right? If you're really, really wanting to win and think that 7 wins is really successful, it's not going to be for the betterment of the team, right? it what we need to do as a football team is we need to find guys that can make plays. And we know what Cortland Sutton is. He is not a wide receiver one. He is somebody's wide receiver two on a team that's really deep that is primed to make a postseason run. That's about it. He's capped out. We're not going to get any more out of Cortland Sutton than we already have. But if you ask me, what is Marvin Mims? There's a whole bunch of question marks. What is Troy Franklin? There's a whole bunch of question marks. Who is Devon Vele? There's a lot of question marks, and we need to be able to get those questions answered. I would rather suck and be incompetent with a bunch of young guys that I can feel maybe a little bit more optimistic about, right? Um, and in the backfield, what is Javonte Williams? He hasn't been good in 3 years. Now, granted, guys, I try to have the empathy. I know he had a terrible knee injury. And I already given him his flowers about what kind of an absolute monster and beast he is for even coming back from that. But he's not good. He's not seeing the hole. He provides no spark to the offense. Defenses are not scared of him at all because he's even lost his power. So why aren't we giving the ball more to Tyler Beatty, to Jaleel McLaughlin, to Blake Watson? Why aren't we experimenting with that? You're experimenting with all these different personnel groupings. Why aren't you experimenting with guys? And then he comes out today on the conference call and he says, "Well, we knew that we only gave Tyler Beatty the ball once, but we just weren't able to get the personnel groupings given the situation on the field." Listen, dude, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. Get guys that are talented and that you don't know much about and that other opposing teams don't know much about. Get them the ball and see what the hell that they can do and live with the consequences. Because right now you are trotting out a bunch of guys that you know a lot about and they're not doing anything. And then, now we got Mike McGlinchey down. He's going to be on IR. He's going to miss 4 weeks. I look at it like, let's see what the hell Alex Polcheski can do. We paid Mike McGlinchey all this money. Apparently, he was supposed to be an elite run blocker. He was never really good at pass protection. We knew that. But he was supposed to be a really, really good run blocker, and he's not. We run right side. On paper, if you run towards Quinn Miners and Mike McGlinchey, you should easily be able to get 4 yards a clip. Easily, and that's not happening. So, hey, maybe this young kid is better, or maybe he can provide some sort of blocking or some sort of spark on the right tackle side, on the right side of the offensive line that we've been looking for. And that's what it's going to be really about for me. Let this young team develop together, right? You look at it all the time. The and I always use the Texans because they're an easy comp because they happened last season, right? And I'm not saying we're definitely not going to be the Texans. I'm not saying that. But what the Texans did is that they built this roster with a lot of young guys. They drafted well. They took years, a few years of draft picks, and then they drafted C.J. Stroud. And what did they do? They let these guys play. They rolled them out there and they said, "Go out there, play free, have fun, get the ball in the hands of your playmakers." Then you got guys like, Tank Dell making plays. You've got obviously CJ Stroud out there making plays. Nico Collins, somebody that they brought over that was still a young player. He was out there making plays. You just got a lot of young talent on the defensive side of the ball. You got young guys flying around everywhere. The pass rushers, their corners at the cornerback that they had drafted last year. I can't think of the names. But you had these young guys be able to play, and then you said, now you've got veteran players that want to come here that you can fill the gaps that you're looking to fill. Joe Mixon looks like he's going to be a really great fit for him this year. Stephon Diggs is going to add another element to that wide receiver room. And so they got to that point because they played young players. They didn't play a bunch of guys that they knew were not good. Damian Pierce wasn't good. They stopped playing him. They got rid of his ass. Uh, Dalton Schultz was, in a certain role. They kind of rolled with him. It was a experimenting, but also being able to win and also be able to be competent. And for us, I think that Sean Payton is being so stubborn in terms of doing things the way he's been used to doing it that he needs to adjust and realize that sometimes you might have a plan and a vision for certain personnel groupings, but if you're never going to put yourself in a position to even get to those personnel groupings, then what are you even doing? You know? So we really need to be able to simplify it. But guys, as I said, as I wrap this video up, we have to look at this season in a completely different light than the previous 8 years. They are completely independent of each other. Because in the past, it was always like, oh, we got this veteran quarterback, or oh, we got all these, washed up players that we feel we could be really, really optimistic about. This year's got to be about how much better do you look in week 14 than you did in week 2? And if the answer is you look significantly better, then the season is very successful, especially when it comes to Bonix. If you get to week 14 and it's all kind of the same crap, and the quarterback Bonix, he doesn't really look like he's made a lot of strides in development, and he hasn't really showed any kind of spark or potential, then hey, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because now you got to go back to the drawing board and you might need to look for a quarterback again next year. That's how this works. You got to look at it individually. Um, and so let's not lose sight of that. But that being said, as I had said, it starts with the head coach. He's got to simplify things. He's got to commit to an identity. If they collectively as a staff and a front office look at this team and they say, we think that the way that we can be the best offense is by going empty, spreading them out, 4 or 5 wide receivers, and going up tempo, then full blown commit to it. And if you feel like it's the complete opposite, 3 tight end sets, I formation, run the ball, fine with that too. But whatever that is, you have to make a commitment to it, prove that you can be effective out of that identity, and then be able to add the complexities and add the nuances to it. That's exactly what I mean by it's a very simple and a very complex game at the same time. It's simple in a sense of establishing your identity should be very simple. You should be able to do those things. We're a team that plays good defense, runs the ball efficiently, doesn't turn the ball over. Fine, do that, and then you work on play action fake, throw the ball down the field, all those kind of good things. So that's what I got. I want to know what y'all think, man. I want to know where you guys' heads at as a Broncos fan in Broncos country, and let's talk about it, man. And let's start to look at things in a more critical light when it comes to individual aspects of the team and not the team in its entirety overall. Because for all I know, if I had to make a guess, the core members of our team, the Garrett Bowles, the Cortland Sutton, and the Javonte Williams, I don't think any of them are going to be back next year. So why are we even wasting our breath on them? And they shouldn't be. And they shouldn't even be playing much this year. Now, I know they're not gonna stop playing Cortland, right? And at this particular point, I'm not saying that they should, but they need to get other guys involved more. Um, and they need to do something from the run game. They have to do something. Send a message, challenge those guys, do things the right way. All right, Broncos country. Take care of yourselves. Spend time with those people that you love. And until next time, go Broncos, as always, and peace out.